Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. This is Brain Muffin talking about nerd stuff today. So, to preface this, let me give you a very quick rundown on Apple and my background. So, I always liked the Apple II computer. I had friends in high school, especially when I lived in Germany, had Apple II computers. I had one friend who had a 2 Plus, and then their dad bought a 2E, and that would have been 85, I think. So it'd have been an enhanced 2E. I don't think it had 128K of RAM. I think it just had the 80 column. No, it must have, because it had the 80 column card in it. So, and I always wanted one, but they were always too expensive. And then my parents, the first computer we bought in '87 was a 286 clone, one that my brother eventually gave to some computer repair shop. I was, gone and married by then, and I didn't care, but that was stupid. But anyway, so I always liked the Macintosh too, but I never owned one until probably 8 or 9 years ago. When we finally got a MacBook Pro. And so the kids kind of grew up with the Macs. They were obviously in their schools, and I really like the Mac OS because it is Unix. It's clean. I was a Windows developer at one time many years ago, and that's when I really learned the innards of Windows. And Windows is a frickin' mess. Microsoft is trapped in their own success. And unlike Apple, who they had the Mac OS was a mess as well, and they finally said, we have to remove from us. Now, part of that was Jobs coming back, and next step being based on Unix. But I know it's a more BSD, but forget what version of Unix it is. And I run some Linux stuff. In fact, I ran Linux on a machine for 2 years that was my primary work machine too, laptop. So when I saw this, I could not believe it. It's like, I'm not fully a fanboy. I just like using their products because they work and they have a real OS. And I'm on an 8-year-old iMac that has 16 gigs of RAM, and that's really the only, I had to replace the hard drive once, and I was able to do it myself. So I've looked at possibly doing a Hackintosh for years. I've just never gone down that path. It's just a little too painful, and even though I have the expertise, I really don't have the time to fiddle with, hey, is the next OS upgrade going to just ruin everything? So I saw this, and I was like, this can't be real. But unfortunately it is, and this really irritates the living crap out of me. I don't know it's almost like Apple's trying to go out of business. I don't know if this is Tim Cook. I don't know if this is, Jobs has been gone for years. This is as dumb as when they took stuff off of the MacBook Pro laptop, stuff that pros were using. This is as dumb as the trash can Mac Pro. There's still no real upgradable Mac Pro. It's like this whole idea that the computer should be an appliance it was revolutionary in the early 80s, but that is long gone. And if you're going to have something be an appliance, it cannot cost as much as it is. We also have tablets and Surface and other things that are filling that gap. And you can't sell something as an appliance that's $2,000, $3,000 just expecting in a couple of years people are just going to toss it. So the newest MacBook Pro, bricked if not repaired by Apple. This is absolutely insane. So new reports from Motherboard and Mac Rumors suggest that the Apple's 2018 Mac Pro, as well as the iMac Pro, can be bricked if the repairs are not performed by Apple or an Apple authorized service provider. Now, there's already on the iMac Pro, there's already a limited amount of things that people can do, and both publications. So this is interesting. Acquired documents distributed to authorized service providers detailing the need to use diagnostic software known as the AST2 System Configuration Suite after repairs of any product with Apple's T2 custom chip. Failure to run the software suite will result in the repair unit ceasing to function. This is crazy. So if someone messes up, okay, so forget the side of it. This is to get people to not do stuff with their machines or fix them themselves or whatever. What happens if somebody does this, that forgets to do this? So let's say someone else does the repair. They set it aside for someone to run the diagnostics. There's a miscommunication. They don't realize it's not been done. They think it's repaired. The person comes and pays. They take it home. They turn it on, and bam. Okay. How are they going to tell? How are they going to know who's at fault? Now, this is just absolutely asinine. Technically, not all repairs require the software suite. You can still replace some outer elements of the device, like the bottom case of the MacBook Pro or the back panel on the iMac Pro, but the majority particularly any that might involve aftermarket upgrades due according to motherboard. Like I said, it's almost like Apple wants to go out of business. For the 2018 MacBook Pro, replacing or repairing the display assembly model as both the RAM and SSD. Two components typically upgraded are soldered to the logic board. This would further complicate already difficult post-purchase upgrades. Yeah, this is just stupid. I mean, I don't know what in the freak Apple is thinking here. This really, and I don't know if it's in the OS. And so if someone does, what happens with Hackintoshes is this going to eventually, it's like license your freaking OS and just be done with it. IBM does not make products anymore. I mean, back in the 80s, Jobs was so fascinated of defeating IBM that he completely ignored Microsoft and came to dominate. But they were the biggest producer back then at one time. It's hard to understand how big a computer company Apple used to be and how small Microsoft was until Windows really took off. With Windows 3, requiring software available only to Apple employees or those who are paid a license by Apple. And again, some places are probably going to say, you know what, we're not paying that money and we're not taking that liability in case somebody forgets to run this. Repairs on it is anti-consumer. As Motherboard notes, this is similar to the requirements John Deere has made for the repair of any of its recent tractors. Well, maybe this is a fad. While Apple ensures that it and its customer charge the same fee for repairs, oftentimes older products can be taken to unlicensed repair shops for repairs at a fraction of the price. Yeah, that's for sure. Heck, half the time you can buy the stuff online. This move means that you can't get your buddy with a bunch of old Mac parts to repair your iMac Pro 10 years down the line. That is the other side of this. Your machine doesn't break now; it breaks in 5 or 6 years or longer. My machine went for 7 years before I had to do something with it, other than upgrade the RAM. Unlike any of the computers I put together, and I had hard drive failures all the time. Actually, for several years, my power supplies kept going out, and I couldn't figure out why. And a lot of it was the amps. I was paying too much attention to the watts and not the amps on various lines. But anyway, as entertaining as this is for right to repair activists, tinkerers, and 2018 MacBook owners looking to save a buck for down the line, this is also not in any surprising, as already both. They have. I don't understand it. I really don't understand this. Now, I could see not tinkering with an iPhone or something, but these are machines that have more, other than a handful of custom chips. They're just standard parts. When they went to the Intel line, they went. I mean, even before then, the Power PC version of the Mac still used more or less standard parts. Now, they eventually were the only ones really selling Power PC machines, but there were other manufacturers at the time. Smaller phone repair companies that made their living replacing broken glass, and learned and this is the other side of things where her iPhone with Touch ID, the phone's Touch ID module has to be carefully maintained in the repair process, or the phone is bricked. Again, who's liable if someone accidentally bricks your phone? Now what? Is the repair shop liable for the cost of a new phone? Do they say, hey, that $100 repair, surprise, it's $1,000 because we bricked your phone and you're going to have to buy a new one? If it's under Apple Care, Apple warranty, you paid for the Apple Care. I guess if you've paid for Apple Care, you'd have to at this point. I don't know. Yet these anti-consumer repairs also kind of due to the demands of consumers. Well, we demand thinner, and no, we don't. Better engineered. I just want things to last okay, but you can't. I actually, I would love to be able to put my own Mac together, specifications I want. Ideally, there's some kind of middle ground, thin and well-designed devices that are, but we're not talking, an iMac is not that thin a device. Now, it is compared to some of the other PCs, or you compare it to a CRT monitor or something, but, this is ridiculous. So let's look at some of the comments. This is on Gizmodo.com, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Wow, this is also it's convenient never to be. I've had nothing but Apple products for the last 20 years, and yet they're moving away. I know several people that are in this boat. I know people have gone to Android, just fed up with the iPhone, and I'm talking people who've used the iPhone since the thing came out. has anyone asked if their philosophy of monolithic planned obsolescence and control has any backing with consumer data? See, I don't think they want to grow. I know their stock is out of sight, and the vast majority of their money, I think, does come from iPhones and iPads and stuff like that. But I'm not saying that they do, but you don't have to be able to claim to listen to our customers and have this DRM type repair program. I understand that the PC world is scary. BIOS chipsets are power. Oh my, that's great. But can't there be a third option? I want to swap RAM, draw some more. This is, I have tried moving to Linux for some of the stuff that I do. So the screen captures and stuff I had are easy enough to do. I have an old machine that if I, it's decent for what I need it to do. I've got a newer laptop that I would love to dual boot Linux on to try some stuff, but I don't have enough space. But that's my own fault. But video editing and image editing were the two things that held me back, and then WoW was another thing. And the video editing software in the Linux environment just isn't as good as Final Cut Pro X. If Adobe, now Premiere is a bit, it has some stuff, and it's a bit bulkier, and I know Premiere has its own faults. I mean, Adobe just seems to the Lightroom gets slower with every version. It's amazing. I've seen other photographers do things where they load an image and there's a new piece of software that helps. That's kind of like Lightroom. I think it's Light Table or something like that on in Linux, but it doesn't. It's like it has a single mindset of, you're doing a project, not scores of projects, and this kind of nonsense makes me really, 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 really want to pursue that Linux environment again. And just put together a Linux box and do everything on it. I don't know if Skype's available. That's the problem, is that I use Skype. I use a couple other things that are only on a Mac and or Windows, and I'm not going to run Windows for a main system. It's way too buggy. It's way too easily attracts viruses. And don't tell me because it's the most popular. I have developed for Windows. It's because it's insecure as crap. And that's mainly because of games, but not fully. But again, if they did what Apple did and put everything that was old in its own sandbox and say this sandbox is eventually going away, but they're too chicken crap to do that. But this is just crazy. I mean, this is just giving Microsoft money, really. This is really going to start irritating people. They've already pissed off the pros because the pros don't have any real stuff. The Windows versions of some of that software has gotten a lot better. Now, there's nothing like Final Cut Pro in Windows. But if you run Windows granted, you never do anything on the internet other than a handful of things. You never go to compromised sites. You don't necessarily have to run antivirus, which does degrade your performance. With all that overhead, Windows device drivers are inherently insecure and heavy, and the OS itself is a problem. This is just going to irritate people more, and I don't get it. I mean, it gets harder and harder to defend Apple in any of their decisions they make, and this is just crazy. I could see where you'd want to encourage people to go to an authorized dealer, especially if it's something under warranty. But and I do the same thing in cars. When things are under warranty, I go to the dealer. Once they're no longer under warranty, I'm not paying the dealer's prices to fix something. I'm going to go to Joe Down, unless it's something that my local, repair shop can't do or won't do, because maybe it touches something that they don't want that liability if they mess up. But this is, good grief. Even if an authorized repairer forgets to do this and bricks customer computers, this the potential for this to accidentally cause ruckus and cause somebody money. That it's going to cost either and if it's cost the consumer money because something got bricked by the repair shop, they're not going to stand for that. Repair shops aren't going to be able to take this out of their own for too much. And then if it's part of, Apple will lose profitability. I don't get it. I really don't get it. This is so anti what Apple was about in the beginning, where they were kind of fighting the man, and now they are the man, and they're getting worse every time they come out with new stuff. This is just stupid. So can you tell I'm passionate about this? Because I really want to put my own Mac together, because I really, really like the OS and the software that's written for it. I've tried using Windows versions of stuff. They're garbage. I've tried using Linux versions of stuff for the stuff that I need to do photography and video and stuff. There's one other piece of software that I use on occasion. I used to use it a lot, and that's Daz Studio. And trying to get it to run in Linux is just incredibly stupid hard. And they won't come out with a Linux version. It's dumb. They have an excuses because they use the stuff they use to do all of the interface pieces compiles. I mean, they have stuff that if they just click a button, it compiles it all in Linux, but they won't do it. But this is just what I hope is that this really pushes the Linux community to really get off their butts and really get serious about being a real competition for Mac OS, because this is the kind of crap that's not going to. They brick the wrong person's computer, and there will be a lawsuit in the hundreds of, now I say hundreds of million, but there will be lawsuits in the tens of millions. They do the wrong too many, and it will be in hundreds of millions. Now, they won't get that money, but it'll be that it'll be a, class action lawsuit type thing, multiple firms, and it'll be to teach Apple a lesson. You can put that in air quotes. That's what they're asking for. They are asking to really have a major litigation problem with this stupidity. So, but that's my take on this, and I really irritated Apple for it. So what do you think? Do you think this is just the next step in the way these computers, and everybody's going to do this, or do you think this is Apple just being idiots? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for clicking like, and we'll see you next time. Bye.